Oh, get ready for it. You're about to get a lot on Britney Griner coming up in the next few days. If you're not aware, she was harassed at DFW Airport by social media Alex Stein. He has a YouTube channel and everything else, and it was basically, hey, look at me. I'm going to call out Griner for the whole prison exchange and make a scene out of myself. And, well, he's gotten a lot of YouTube views from what I can see. But it's just so predictable. To be honest, I like team fights and team drama and stuff like this. This one, I'm not a big fan of it. I didn't know if I was going to do a video or not on it, but then I thought, okay, let's go ahead. Yeah, I just think overall it's a bit sad. People will start yelling on either side, and it's just a whole bunch of noise, as far as I can tell. So essentially, the ones that hate Griner, and I see it all the time. Like, I have a video on the relationship of Griner and Mulkey, and it predictably comes down to the Griner view, sort of a liberal view saying let's support Britney and everything else, and then there's sort of a lot of times a view of the right of she's disrespected our country and she's a drug dealer and or not a drug dealer, but she had drugs and she deserved what she got and we shouldn't exchange to get her out of there and blah 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 blah. And they can argue all day long. I really don't care either way. I don't think anybody should be in prison for for having cannabis. That's ridiculous. And I think she was caught up in something that wasn't great. Um, was she the smartest about it? Probably not. But did she deserve to be held in jail as a political prisoner? No, I don't think so. I think the whole thing was, she was a pawn in a bigger war with Putin and the U.S. and everything else. But predictably, this will go down those two tracks of those that don't like her calling this out. The other thing the real sad thing about this is, well, not I don't. Well, two things. Basically, WNBA Players Association, I got no doubt they are going to come out and say, "Oh my God, we have to get charter flights. This is why we wanted charter flights for Griner, and because this didn't happen, this is why she was exposed to this, verbal bashing from Stein, essentially, and being in this uncomfortable situation. And how dare the WNBA not protect her? And I think it'll go down that sort of way of, we need to do a better job of protecting our players, and this isn't good enough on their part. Um, I don't know about that because essentially an airport's probably one of the most safest places you can go, essentially. As you know, nobody's going to have a weapon inside the terminal, so there's not really a security risk. In terms of Griner, she is a public figure. People can call her out and things like that. And that could happen whether she's in an airport or walking into the basketball stadium. I mean, they can try to do the whole surrounding her with security to prevent, it looks like he's being pushed away, this Stein guy, as he's trying to call her out. And I assume that was security detail for the Mercury or her personal security. But this can happen wherever she goes. Whenever she's on public land, people can call her out. So I don't think charter flights is the magic solution to this problem, because and the exposure of this as well, I've got no doubt. I mean, you can see it already. I mean, they're going to be. It's easy to get tickets to WNBA games. I imagine there'll be a whole group section of anti-Britney people sitting in the stadium making a scene that have to be removed by security or something like that, and they can just use this to make a scene. For what purpose? I don't know. It doesn't. It seems. What is the purpose of that? But I think it'll happen potentially, and the real sad part is that um, I don't think she should have been a prisoner in Russia. I think it was unfortunate that happened, but now she's been freed. Whether you agree with the exchange for what they gave up to get her, and if it should have been done or not, um, a situation like this almost makes her now a prisoner within the United States, because It's not fun having to worry about always going out in public and is somebody going to call you out with the camera and start berating you and telling you why you're a bad person and stuff like that. I mean, that's not a fun way to live your life. And again, overall, I just think it's pretty sad. But as well, both sides are going to use this. So the right will use this anti Britney thing. You've got no doubt this will be on Fox and everything else. And then the WNBA side and those pro WNBA, they'll use this to further illustrate, oh my God, this is why we need to have, this is why we need to have charter flights because, so our players don't get berated, and I think that's ridiculous as well because that has nothing to do with this. I think charter flights is ridiculous, and not just for the women but for the men as well. I don't think anybody should have charter flights. I mean, if you look at the carbon emissions for flying a team and everything else, like I can't believe the Seattle Storm called what do they call their stadium? Is it like climate efficiency or climate change stadium or whatever the hell they call it? Sporting teams are so bad environmentally with all the stadiums and concrete they use and everything else. For them, the preciousness of, oh my God, we can't fly first class or whatever. I think, again, not WNBA. I think for the pros as well. I think everybody should just fly first class. In my opinion, I'll get roasted on that. Fine, whatever. That's just my opinion. I don't think you should have a plane just of a big plane loaded with few people just for the precious football players or basketball players, whoever the hell have to get to their game in the best way. When you look back in the 60s and 70s, I mean, they traveled, they did it tough, and they probably didn't like it, but you're able to do that. It's just so soft now that you have to be first class. The other thing that would be interesting, it's so the calling out of Griner is so selective, from these guys on the right. I want to see somebody at the airport calling out Barkley or Jordan or somebody like that. They're getting all, these shoes made at China that are undermining the labor force in America and all the things on that. You rarely see any mass protest on that. And, how Nike was essentially built through cheap labor in China, or same thing with Apple and stuff like that. So why we're selectively going after Britney Griner for this issue versus some of the other stuff that's a hell of a lot sleazier and people are making money on. It just seems like this guy Stein is just going after an easy target. Let's go after the black gay woman and say how terrible she is, and it'll be great. I want to see somebody go after, the popular person. Like, if you're going to go after somebody, okay, go after Jordan, or maybe stalk the golfers, the live golfers and the commissioner that sold out. Stay at the airport there and, maybe give them sort of like a mannequin body part saying how you sold out to Saudi Arabia and everything else, taking the blood money from them and how awful you are. I just don't. Of all the things going on in the world and dodgy things and people taking money under the table and sleazy stuff going on, it's weak sauce to me to go after Griner, and I think it's a shame. Again, she did her time in Russia, which would have been brutal. I can only imagine. And then she gets back home to the USA, and now she's almost a prisoner of having to fear going out because she'll be picked on by her fellow countrymen. And just doesn't, just again, doesn't sit real well and just overall seems sad. Anyway, not a fun video. I'm sure people will crush me on either side. Go for it. Your thoughts are always welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.